Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I have with me today Mr. Datron Branch. He is the CEO of Branch Farms and executive manager of Diapedic. So, welcome to the show, Datron.
Hi, how are you doing today, Marina? Thank you for allowing us to feature our brand and our products on your podcast today.
Yes, I am so excited to get into, first of all, your personal background. So, tell us about where you grew up, where you went to school, and how you got into this industry in the first place.
Okay. Well, I'm originally from Arkansas, from a town called Monticello. And obviously, I grew up there, went to high school there at Monticello High School. And from there, I went to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, where I am the 81st person in my family to graduate from that institution. So, very proud of that long family history there. And while I was at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, I majored in industrial technology with a minor in business administration. So, kind of got my business background from that and also my technological skills while I was there, sort of like a pre-engineering degree. From there, I actually never worked in my major like most college grads. I went into the business side of things with the majority of my 20 years of sales and marketing being in the mortgage industry and in the automotive industry.
Wow, that's quite interesting. So talk to us about, what you enjoyed about your schooling, your degree, like what did you hope to get out of it, and then what actually happened, as you went on to work in the industry.
Sure. So again, my major was industrial technology, which is sort of a pre-engineering degree. I decided not to further my education in engineering. It just didn't seem like a good fit for me. After 4 years, everything was geared toward business administration, especially when I moved out here to Dallas, Texas, where I currently reside with my wife. And so getting into the mortgage industry was a huge thing for me. It was very good in the early 2000s, being able to kind of watch the market and understand some of those things in the mortgage industry as far as loans, rates, and things like that. Refinances was a big thing, of course. And from there, went into the automotive industry where I was in automotive sales and remarketing. I was over the Southwest Territory of the United States, which covered Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and parts of Oklahoma. Um, got to travel a lot. Got to a point to where I kind of hit a glass ceiling in that industry and decided to go back into farming, which I grew up farming with my father, who had farmed our family land for over 35 years. And so after hitting that glass ceiling, I was just sitting on the couch late in December 2018, and they passed a farm bill. And I said, you know what? I think I'd like to try, getting into the cannabis industry for the health and wellness side of it, not so much the recreational side. And went back into farming with my father and really got to travel around to different places. Of course, Colorado, Kentucky, and kind of learning from other farming cultivation projects and kind of really understanding the cannabis plant. My father's a lifelong farmer, again, very familiar with cultivating different crops. So this was a little bit different. So we kind of went around to different cultivation projects, learned the plant, and then we started cultivating on our own in 2019.
Wow, beautiful. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I love that legacy of the family name and the farming. So that answers the question about branch farms. So how was Diapetic born out of all of this?
Well, once we started cultivating, we quickly knew that we wanted to vertically integrate all of our operations. At that time, as you know, it had just been passed through the legislature. And then each of the individual states had their own hemp research program. In the state of Arkansas, we got our cultivation license as well as our processor license. The difference is the cultivation license just allows us to grow and cultivate the products. Our processing license allows us to take that biomass and then process it into crude oil and further distill it into CBD products. Um, Another thing that we did in 2019 was, as a processor, we were responsible for about 15 farmers that had to have a processor in order to cultivate themselves. So we led a project of 15 farmers our first year, and we helped them get their licenses and also helped them grow help them with their fields and cultivate. And then we took their biomass and processed it from there. And end up making our products. So Branch Farms is literally our field and cultivation processing operations. Diapedic is our brand in which we market our products.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it sounds really interesting. So, how did you keep up with like all the changing legislature and, how are you currently handling that side of things and leveraging obviously the many different parts of the plan that could be therapeutic, but according to the law, just kind of being compliant with everything that's going on?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, of course, the industry is still fairly new. There's a lot of changes in the industry from state to state. For instance, when we first started cultivating, THC levels in hemp had to be below the 3% threshold, and they still do need to be below the 3% THC level to be legally compliant. Since then, there's been a lot of recreational companies that have tried to get around that process by, using Delta 8 and other minor cannabinoids in their products. So the industry is still changing. We've been very instrumental in working in the state of Arkansas with our hemp program to help make those changes. We knew right from the onset that we wanted to be more in the health and wellness space as opposed to the recreational space. So that allowed us to really have a lot of leverage with what we were doing and getting our products out into the market. One of the main things that we really had to focus on was how do we market this product? So we had to overcome some hurdles because all the other industries that literally have platforms to market products. We're kind of unsure about how they wanted to allow us to market our products on their platforms, whether it be through social media or just in stores, right? So we had to overcome a lot of those hurdles. But what we ended up doing was really focusing on the educational aspect of it. So a lot of our marketing really was at a grassroots level, going into the doctor's offices and educating them as well as their patients on our products and a lot of the benefits that come from our hemp-derived CBD creams.
I love it. So tell us about how you came up with some of your products and what are your best-selling ones right now?
Well, I actually am a prime example of someone who has dealt with chronic conditions and inflammation. I have lower back pains, and I was constantly looking for products that were all natural, and not having side effects and things like that. So that's really what drew me to the health and wellness side of the cannabis industry. And after, just looking around and seeing what was out there in the market, I really didn't see anything that really met my specific needs at the time. And so I pretty much started searching online for different cream products that can be used as topicals. And what I realized was that a lot of those topical products that were out there did not really have a lot of the true CBD concentrations that they advertised. So it gave us an opportunity to really um, start out with our CBD oils and then also bring on our topical products.
Awesome. So I'm just looking at your shop here. So are you mostly specializing in topicals and why did you make that decision?
Well, we do specialize in oils and topicals. Our When we first started our Branch Farms brand, we had our creams and our oils under that brand. And during COVID, there was a lot of people that were really hesitant to use the oil droplets. Of course, with the different vaccines that were out there, everybody's like really worried about putting things in their bodies, which they should be, and putting the right type of things in our bodies, right? So we quickly realized that we needed to come up with another delivery system, and that's where we kind of manufactured and formulated our creams. I have to actually give props to my mother who started me out early. She's a beautician and she always formulated a lot of her hair care products and used them. And I kind of helped her formulate as well. So it's kind of where I got my background. We have members in our family that suffer from, skin conditions like eczema. And so I kind of put out a couple of old formulations and kind of added CBD to it, and that's how we came up with our creams. And it is our top seller, actually. And so once we got out into the field, once COVID was over, we started going back into the doctor's offices, and they were very open and happy to see us because, hey, we're, not locked down and we're seeing customers and patients again. And so really it was just about educating those doctors on our products. And, it's been really good to get a lot of good feedback from their patients as well as from those practitioners themselves about our products.
Awesome. So what was the first ever product you ever created, and what's the story behind the name of your company, Diapedic?
Okay, so the first product that we actually developed were our oil tinctures. And then once we put those out in the market in 2020, we started getting some good feedback from it again. Then COVID hit, and then we came out with our creams. And after going out into the doctor's offices, a lot of our medical health and wellness providers asked us, "Hey, how do we get in on this? We love your product." And a lot of our products and our whole business is kind of wrapped in our family trust and things like that. So what we did was we decided to kind of spin that off into a whole new brand, which we originally came up with, but we kind of put it on the shelf, which was Diapedic. Dia meaning throughout, pedic meaning through the muscles and joints. So that's how we came up with Diapedic. And, we have a few investors and brand ambassadors and influencers, as well as great vendor affiliates that help distribute our brand out into the market. So that's kind of how we came up with the name Diapedic.
I love it. Yeah, thank you for sharing that story. I think that explains so much, about what you're going for. And I want to talk about, the application of the creams for pain management, because pain management is such a big topic, and we have the whole opioid crisis, and we have all the side effects that you mentioned from other medications, and so many, sources and mechanisms of action of both medications and how the pain originates. And treating the root cause and the source of like the pain and inflammation becomes really important. So I want to ask, did you want to, originally provide pain relief? Was that part of your goal as a company, or did it just sort of like happen that your product was good for pain?
Well, that was one of the main focuses of our products, basically. We know that we have a horrible opioid crisis, and it's very addictive, as you know, of course. So what we wanted to do was come up with a product where there were no side effects, no harmful side effects, and no addictions. And something that, you can use as an all natural ingredient. Obviously, in the holistic world, being all natural is huge. And so, a topical application is something that, anyone can use. We can localize our application to that area of pain or inflammation. And that was the main reason why we came up with our creams. Easy application, and we can really hone in on that area of your pain without any side effects.
Yeah, I love it. And I also received some samples from you guys, and I love, the feel, the texture of it, your use of other excipient ingredients, which is really different, in my opinion, from other companies. Like there's shea butter and like all of these other amazing, wholesome ingredients. So tell me what else, makes your brand stand apart from other industry leaders and competitors.
Well, we do use all natural products, unrefined butters, as well as therapeutic essential oils. And the main thing that we do is we use CBD distillate in our products. So we don't have to mess with the integrity of the CBD. And what happens is those unrefined butters allow it to rapidly absorb into the skin, and so that it can be picked up by the CB1 and CB2 receptors of the endocannabinoid system. And from there, it interacts with the endocrine system to release hormones to modulate pain and reduce inflammation. So the effectiveness of our product is what allows us to stand out from others in an all-natural way. So with so many people looking for natural remedies, we like to say that we're here. We have an all-natural product that is definitely effective for several chronic as well as acute conditions.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for sharing that. So for those who may not be familiar with, the terminology behind cannabis and extraction methods, could you tell us a little bit about, what does that mean, the distillate, and also how you have full spectrum versus broad spectrum and what the difference is?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we do is we want to make sure that we have a quality control measure from soil to shelf. It starts when we plant the seed. We use the best strains that are out there that have the exact cannabinoids that we're looking for, as well as some of the minor cannabinoids like the CBC and CBG to go along with CBD. One of the other things that we do as far as keeping the integrity of the cannabinoids so that they can actually work is our processing. So we have CO2 extraction process, which is different from, butane extraction or alcohol extraction. And so with the CO2 extraction, it allows us to pretty much, um, take our CBD from crude oil to the distillate form as opposed to the powder form. The key difference with distillate is that we get to mix the distillate in the oil form with other oils and butters. So that allows it to really rapidly absorb in the skin a little bit better. We do have two different variations in our products. We have broad spectrum and full spectrum, as you mentioned. The difference is broad spectrum has all the cannabinoids and terpenes from the hemp plant, excluding THC. So we usually use that for like, our athletes who get tested, they can use our products. It's THC free. And, like your police officers, even doctors and nurses that, are normally tested. And then our full spectrum has all the cannabinoids and terpenes naturally found in the hemp plant, including trace amounts of THC that are below the 3% legalized standard.
Okay, yeah, thank you for distinguishing that. I think that's important. And have you tested people who are taking the full spectrum and that has the trace amounts? And did you notice a difference between like what they tested for as far as THC? Or is that just a theoretical precaution that you're taking?
It's a theoretical precaution that we're taking. We know from our tests, all of our products are batch tested. And then we also know we can also um, confirm that we have zero THC in our broad spectrum products. So that's the difference between our application of the broad spectrum and the full spectrum, because we know that some people even have allergies to THC. So we want to make sure that they have options. Whereas some companies only offer one option, we want to offer both options.
I love it. And I think both of those are great options because, as you mentioned, the other cannabinoids and the other terpenes are all intact, which makes it a complete medicine. And we talk about the entourage effect of cannabis, but truly it's that holistic experience of the whole plant acting in synergy. And that's true across the board for any plant that you work with medicinally or as a food. So I'm curious to hear, like, in an ideal world, right, if you were to formulate for the therapeutic potential of, let's say, pain relief or inflammation or anything else, what would you want to include in the plant? Would you include more THC? Like, what really determines the best formulation for a specific indication?
I would say more CBG. CBG is a cannabinoid that really helps to reduce pain. All the cannabinoids work in concert together, even including THC. What I like to say with broad spectrum is like, the whole band playing without the tubas being the THC. So that's one analogy that I like to use. So just based off my formulation, THC gives a more of a psychoactive effect, and that's not what we're going for as far as the health and wellness space. So I would probably reduce the THC and increase the CBG and CBD.
Yeah, thank you for that perspective. And, I do want to still distinguish it from, like, let's say CBD only oils, right? That you are getting these other components. And recently there's been a lot of talk and research about terpenes, right? The quality of
Yes.
the resins and the terpenes to be actually the most therapeutic compounds. So what have you found as far as the terpenes?
Well, with terpenes, there's like over 100 of them, but the main ones that we have in our strands are linalool and pinene. Um, for instance, pinene is just like it sounds, like pine sol. You find these terpenes in all of your plants. Each plant has a terpene that either gives off the taste or smell. So the pinene really works well. It's good for reducing inflammation. And linalool is also good for reducing inflammation. What we try to do is we try to use specific strains that are all like directed toward reducing pain and inflammation.
I love it. Thank you for sharing those as well. And like you mentioned, they're also present in other plants. Um,
Yes.
but this has a great combination and concentration of these two and many others. So I want to ask you, for those in the audience that may have thought about either starting their own company, whether it's, with the cannabis plant or any other herbal plant or anything, right? Even if it's not product based, the process sounds like a little bit overwhelming, right? And you shared with us that, you followed other farms, you studied the plant, you also kind of broke into the marketplace, and you're really sticking to the legalities of everything. So what would your advice be, or based on your experience, like going about, right, creating something from scratch, researching the whole GMP, that whole process of becoming certified, what did that entail? And then learning about the plant and how to formulate in the way that would be therapeutic.
I would say know your audience first of all. Recognize who you're formulating for and why you're formulating, right? And then from there, once we recognize who we're formulating for and why we're doing it, now we can back our way into the application, whether it's going to be a sublingual application with your tinctures, or whether it's going to be a topical application. Several different topical applications from roll-ons to creams. Even with the sublingual, you even have gummies and you also have your tincture drops. So once you figure that out, it's pretty much just coming up with the right formulation to get the right effects. So you talked about terpenes, for instance. Terpenes give you that, give you certain effects. And so you want to make sure that you have the right amount and right percentages of terpenes in your formulations. One of the things that we did with our formulations, we included camphor, for instance, versus menthol. In my opinion, menthol does provide a cooling sensation, but it doesn't really work well in concert with the unrefined butters and the other essential oils. So the reason why we use camphor is you also get that cooling and calming effect, but it also, again, helps to reduce inflammation. So when you have different layers of properties and different ingredients in your formulation, that can help reduce inflammation, if that's what you're targeting, it's just better.
Yeah, I love it. And I think the process of, becoming a legally legitimate uh herbal company, right? There's a lot of caveats because it's not like you can just make a product in your kitchen and, give it to your friends and family. When you want to go out into the market with it, there's that whole like good manufacturing processes, which I mentioned. So what has been like your biggest hurdle with actually, getting to this level of product creation and marketing so far? If you could just touch on, the whole process, right? From root and soil and seed to harvest to make it into a product.
Absolutely. Tracking everything from the seed all the way up to that, lab test before you release it to market. Each step is very important. Documentation has to occur at each stage of the process. One of the things that we did was we wanted to make sure that we were totally compliant with all products out in the market. So we pretty much went off the California standard. Each state is different. So we went off the most stringent um, states guidelines, which was California at the time. And so we made sure that we had all of our QR codes for the lab testing on our products, which are done in batch testing. We made sure that we had third-party testing, not just our own internal testing. We also made sure that we had the right UPC codes for each SKU, things like that, and then, your basic stuff like, coming up with your box design, making sure that you have the right information on there. Again, education was a big thing. So we tried to fit as much on our product packaging as possible to educate that consumer. And, just going through the distribution channels, at the time, like, for instance, there's a lot of companies, your big box stores, they're just now starting to take on CBD products. A lot of them are still hesitant, but some are. And so we want to do it more on a grassroots level. So that's why we started going to the podiatrists, the rheumatologists, and general healthcare providers out there to introduce our products to the masses of people. I would say that marketing online, social media wise, there were some hurdles that we had to overcome. You can't show any type of cannabis products, any flower, you can't do those things. And so you have your learn more pages. So we had to learn how to, go through the hook, line, and sinker process of, the click through, learn here, learn more about our product, and then direct them to landing pages from there. So different platforms, some platforms worked better than others. And so that's what we had to learn our first year. It was quite a hurdle, but I can tell you this, once you go through it with one product, it's easier with the next product.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for sharing that as well, Datron. So as far as the expenses, right, for everything that you mentioned, including being GMP compliant and the certificate of analysis,
Mhm.
what does that all look like, right? For somebody that may be wondering, okay, like what is the startup cost associated? And also for GMP, is it enough to just be compliant and follow the current guidelines, or do you have to take like some sort of certification track and then recertify annually or something like that?
Yeah, you definitely want to be GMP compliant and make sure you keep up with your certifications in that regard, as far as your facility and how you're going through, how you're keeping up with your, tracking all of your products through the whole process, through each stage, right? Including batch testing, and all of that. So you definitely want to make sure you keep those certifications up. As far as cost, obviously there's a cost associated with everything. So I would definitely say, with your lab testing, make sure that you have a good third party lab, right? And you want to make sure that you get all of your products tested. What we normally do is we like to look at what happened with this batch a few months ago versus with this batch. If it's off by, 0.1%, and we kind of want to dig deeper and know why. For the most part, our products come out consistent. So we're kind of proud of that. We kind of got that whole thing drilled down on our formulation, and our filling, of our jars and things like that. But it can be financially, um, it can be an issue financially, if you don't have everything in place, because now you have to get things retested again if you don't have your standard operating procedures in place. We recently got our notification from the trademark, office, that we're in that last stage. So very excited about that. I would definitely suggest that you always get trademarked. We did not go after a patent because we want to keep our techniques proprietary.
I see. Yeah, that's another great point.
Mhm.
Um, and if you could just share maybe like the biggest piece of advice that you have for people that maybe have an idea and want to bring it to market, and maybe they think it involves creating a product from scratch, like what would you tell them to do?
I would say get with somebody who's already in the industry and who has already done it. It can save you a lot of time and money for sure. We charted this ourselves, so we had no one to kind of hold our hand. We had to go through the whole process. Even dealing with attorneys. During a lot of your legal work, there were no cannabis attorneys out there, right? So they were kind of learning along with us, or we were kind of guiding them along the way, as it related to, the particulars in the industry, and let them handle all the legal things. But with formulations, I would suggest that you get with a formulator and come up with one that is your own. Don't be afraid to reach out to those that know how to formulate. It can still be your own personal formulation, but you definitely want to get with somebody who knows what they're doing. And then I say just taking it to market. Um, the distribution channels. Don't be afraid to reach out to others to distribute your product once you get it ready to go. I mean, it's really about finding the right distribution lanes.
I love it. Yeah, all this is so helpful. And I just have three little follow-up questions from what you shared, before we start wrapping up. So one is, so the legal side of things, is it something that you have to have a dedicated person or team on retainer, or like what does that look like?
Yeah, I just had my attorney on retainer. With Diapedic, we have a group of advisors, that I rely on. Again, I don't try to do everything by myself. That's one thing that I would definitely, um, as a piece of advice, give to someone. Don't try to do everything by yourself. I have a full team around me, from business management, legal team. We have our medical advisors as well, and a distribution advisor. So we have a full team on board with us with our advisory board. That's the first thing I did when I actually put Diapedic together. I said, let me put an advisory board together to help guide me through this whole process. And it worked very well for us. So yeah, I would definitely keep a lawyer on retainer.
I love that. And then the formulation side of things. So you mentioned you learned from your mom and were kind of experimenting all throughout your life with skin and hair. And with this specific formulation, how did you go about like either yourself experimenting with what would work, or did you have to also consult sort of like the market or an advisor?
So during COVID, while we were on lockdown, I was up at 3, 4 in the morning talking to people overseas across the pond, learning how to formulate, just getting tips, in this industry, getting on LinkedIn and you meet so many different people and we were all on lockdown at the time, so it was just cool to even, talk to somebody new, right? And so over a 2 month period, I pretty much learned how to formulate products, especially with the distillate. Most people work from the powder form. I want to work from the distillate form. And the reason why I want to do that is I recognize right off the bat that, with creams, it's all about texture. So it took me a while to get the texture right. At first it was a little bit too hard, and then I got it too creamy. So we found the right balance of texture and then fragrance. We wanted to make sure it was a neutral fragrance that everyone can enjoy, male or female. So we went with lavender, and at first it was a very loud lavender. Lavender can be very loud, and so we kind of had to temper that down some. So we found the right percentages of essential oils and the right mixture of our butters with our oils to come up with the right texture. So it was fun, but it was a little challenge. And once we got it right, we were like, wow, this is awesome. Let's give it out to our guinea pigs, which are our family members. And your family members can be your worst critics and the toughest, and they loved it. So we just, duplicated it again and again until we really got it down pat. And once we started getting that consistency, we knew we were ready to go.
I love it. Yeah, I could definitely attest to the really nice like melting sensation with the butters and the delicate scent. And it really is effective. When I used it, I used it for something for my daughter when she hurt her hand. And I also used it actually on my jaw when I got my wisdom tooth extracted. So I didn't want to take, too much Motrin. And I only got away with taking a couple of tablets. But
Real quick, while you're on that, we learn from our customers, right? We learn so much from our customers. From people saying, "Hey, I actually used it for my, elbow. I have tendonitis, but I also had, fungus on my feet, so I used it in between my little toe, and my second toe, and it kind of helped, alleviate with the itching and also helped with the fungus. And then we also learned that even like things like stomach cramps, right? People just rubbing it on their stomach, to help reduce the pain from the cramps. So we're constantly learning each and every day from people who go on our website and post things about their diabetic experience.
yeah, that's such a good point. It's like things that you wouldn't think that this might be helpful for actually turned out to be really great.
Mhm.
And on the formulation side of things, you mentioned lavender essential oil. So where do you source the rest of your ingredients from? Is it all like sort of in-house and local, or do you have to outsource?
We source all of our ingredients right here in the U.S., which is very good. I'm sure that some of the things like shea butter has to come from overseas. So with that being, all natural, unrefined ingredient, but we source everything here locally in the U.S. and go from there with it.
Okay, beautiful. And you also mentioned, so from the marketing perspective, you were trying to do like the bootstrap. And it sounds like, it worked out for you where you're not really like pouring tons of money into marketing and it's like very much localized and
Mhm.
systemic and like forming a little ecosystem. So what would your advice be there for people that are just starting out and trying to market a product?
Well, when it comes to marketing, you really kind of need to start with your basic social platforms as well as generate your own community. I know, building your community is a big thing nowadays, but you know, it really makes a lot of sense to develop your own community. And, word of mouth is the biggest form of advertisement that you can have. So I would definitely say don't be afraid to give out samples of your products to friends and family starting out, and then give it out to, people in need that may need your product and they'll come back and buy. We've experienced, giving out samples of our products at events. And, once they try it, they always come online and order it. And we're very appreciative of that. We knew that we didn't want to get into a situation where we were spending, $5,000, $10,000 a month burning, through Facebook ads and, things like that, that didn't make sense for us and our demographic market. So I would definitely say don't be afraid to give out your products. Know who your demographic market is, again, whether you're formulating for them or whether you're advertising to them, so you can know directly which platforms are going to work out best for you. And I would say try to do it more organically than actually trying to pay for those ads, because you can really, if you do it more organically, you're going to have those real customers that are just, really into it. But if you start getting into a situation where you're burning $10,000 a month on ads, the one thing that where we have a competitive advantage is we're vertically integrated. So a lot of the companies that white label our products, because we do white label as well, they end up having to advertise and spend $10,000, $15,000 a month advertising. Um, for a smaller return, but what it does is you have to increase your price to cover that. So one of the things that we knew is that if we kept our burn down, we can stay competitively priced with us being vertically integrated. And that gives us a competitive edge as well. Actually, that was one of the issues that we had. They were like, why is your product, not $89 and, it's only like $49 for your 1,000 milligram? And, we have to explain to people, hey, we do everything from soil to shelf. So we don't have a lot of middle people involved in it.
Yeah, I love that you're making it accessible to a wider range of people. And I think that applies also to consultation-based services where you can give a lot of content and value for free and have somebody still find you an authority on something and then pay you for your paid services. So I think it works both ways. So Datron, I want to really thank you for all the information and wisdom you've shared with us today. And if you just have one more minute, we can go into a rapid fire round.
Sure.
Awesome. So what would be the number one advice to improve somebody's quality of life right now?
Wow. I would say doctor appointments, you know. I've recently had a personal relative that has had a health issue where, maybe it could have been prevented early had they had been diagnosed early. So my number one thing would be, if you have insurance, or even if you don't have insurance, do whatever you need to do to have your annual checkups.
Yeah, I love it. Checking up, and it's sort of like maintenance, right? Even if you
Yeah.
are healthy, you still have to keep up that health.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, you do it for your car, you do it for everything, but you have to do
Right.
it for yourself. That's the most important thing. Awesome. So number two, what's your favorite meal to prepare or to consume?
Oh man, I gotta tell you, I gotta go with chicken parmesan. I mean, it's just something about, chicken parmesan. My favorite place is locally. It's called Brio's. They make a great one there. I love Italian food. It's I almost start to say spaghetti, but that's just, too basic. I'll just go ahead and go with the chicken parmesan.
I love it. Yeah, it's so like warming for the soul and the body.
And it fills you up.
Yeah, yeah. And what about share something surprising that many people may not know about you?
Oh wow, let's see here. I would say that one thing that would probably surprise people is that I love jazz music. I do. I like listening to, 1950s, 1960s jazz. Um, you know, um, I love the trumpet. So, um, anything dealing with trumpets, band music, I mean, I just love. So, That's probably one thing that you probably wouldn't think of me, but I actually love jazz music.
Yeah, well, now that analogy about the band with CBD and
Yes,
and
yes.
the other components makes so much sense. Yeah, music
I
is
was a drummer, so keeping up with the beat.
yeah, music is certainly part of what nourishes us, mind, body, spirit. So thank you so much again for coming on. And lastly, could you share with our audience who may want to learn more about you and your products, how they can find out more and connect?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having us again on your podcast to feature our brand and our products. You can reach us at diapedic.com. That's diapedic.com. Diapedic. That's where we have our cream brands. And if you're interested in our CBD oils, you can go to branchfarms.com. That's branchpharms.com. So you gotta have the farms
Yeah.
spin on.
The farm with the farm. Yes. The pharmacist also has that nice catchphrase. So I will have all those links in the show notes. And you're also offering users or listeners rather of this podcast 15% off. So I will have the code for that. And thank you so
Yes.
much again for the discount and for coming on.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Take care, Dalton.